Thank you. You see no one has stood up, right? You see that, right? I'm not fun. Is someone going to ask?
Welcome everybody to, yes, I got you. Welcome everybody to, we didn't even really know what to call it. It's not just the Dreamwares, it's really all of Freddy's Children panel. So welcome. Starting right here, my Nancy. Heather Langenkamp.
You're gonna get it right, I promise.
You just ruined it.
I'm sorry.
But this is Theiss.
You got
Theiss, yes, there we go. Well, she was throwing a thesis statement at me. We walked in the door.
Statement. I'm thinking college. Maybe masters.
Freddy's first kill, Mrs. Wyss.
Wyss. It's not Wyss, it's Wyss. Wyss. Everyone, Wyss. Wyss.
Rhymes with Wyss.
I blame Brooke.
I know, I owned up.
To to this day, one of the most disturbing Freddy kills I've ever seen. Couldn't happen without Miss Jennifer Rubin. The muscle of the Dream Warriors. The cool kid, Rodney Eastman. And what would the team be without, say it, can you say it? Can you just say it? I am
the Wizard Master.
Yeah.
Gives me the thumbs down.
For organizational purposes, I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street is such a great franchise in the horror community. We can start with Heather and go down. What did it mean to each of you guys to be attached to the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise?
Wow. We can start with the easy one. It means that you are attached to the greatest horror movie of all time.
I think that covers everyone.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ricky.
Yeah, no, it's just it's a cool privilege, and I think when you're an actor and you just kind of happen to get cast in something, because that's all you want to do is just work, and when you stumble upon something, you get cast in something that's this iconic, it's cool. It's a privilege. It really is.
True.
It's a wonderful legacy to be a part of, as Heather said, the best horror franchise.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be a long story. Chuck Russell said to me that he's world traveled, and he told me in other cultures that it's an honor to be in a film where you die or something, or that Freddy.
I like that.
Did he, like there's, like before, in the 84, when we did this movie, maybe there was a bit of a stigma for being in the horror that's not like today, the super fandom, so we have like some kind of great karma or something for being a representative of somebody who died or something. Yeah, died.
Just call it like it is.
Yeah.
It means we get a check every year.
There we just bring it home.
Now for me, it means just like like take everything everybody has said, you just put it together in a basket, and it just means that we made another family that I appreciate.
Yeah, no, now I'm speechless. And kind of what Jennifer said. I mean, for me, what it meant in the moment. I was a huge horror fan. I saw Friday the 13th in theaters and Evil Dead, and when I was a little kid, The Exorcist and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and so then to watch Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one, when I was like a senior in high school, and wanting to be an actor, and then 3 years later, my first real acting job, getting to be in a horror movie and getting to be in this horror movie was pretty incredible. And then the other part of it is what Jennifer just touched on, is that in the 80s, horror was like kind of like one step above. Well, there was pornography, soap operas, horror movies. And it's very interesting too, because it wasn't like a TMZ society. Like Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and Nightmare on Elm Street 4 were both top 10 grossers of that year. And I didn't even realize it. Like because now, like, if you're in a top 10 movie, like, you have a publicist and you're like going out to dinner and the paparazzi is chasing you. But there was no sort of awareness like that. And so for years, I have to be honest, like for 20 years, people would say, I have 90 credits on my IMDb, and people would say, oh, you're an actor, what have you been in? And I'd be like, well, I was in 2 of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Oh, wow, like that's the thing that everybody recognizes. And for a long time I thought, wow, that sucks. Like, I should be like De Niro, But then I started doing conventions and saw like the breadth and the love of the horror community and what this movie meant to people. And also the interesting thing is with social media, when I was, 10 years ago, I would get, like a few years ago, I would get so many requests from, like people my own age saying, oh, I love the movie. Now I'm getting like constant requests from like 12, 13, 14-year-old boys and girls who are like, I love Nightmare on Elm Street. And the older this thing gets, the bigger it gets. And I want to say one last thing, I'm sorry. But I used to say, I used to feel like I was like, I don't want to put them in the same category, but I felt like Nightmare on Elm Street was sort of an embarrassment before. And now I feel like being embarrassed that you're in Nightmare on Elm Street is like being embarrassed that you were in The Godfather. And then the next thing that I figured out is that if you go to like a third world country somewhere and you say Don Corleone, they'll be like, huh? But if you say Freddy Krueger, they're like, oh yeah, Freddy Krueger. And like my little, sort of joke about The Godfather, like, 5 years ago, now it's like kind of even more popular than that in sort of global pop culture, which is really interesting, and I'm really proud to be part of it. Sorry for rambling.
So to kind of wrap it all up at the end, the legacy is an incredible thing to be a part of. And again, just like what Ken said, it's an incredible family. And the greatest thing is that we get to see each other over and over again.
Right on. It's true.
More for Heather and Amanda. The first one is it's a dark horror film compared to when we see Freddy. By the time we get to Dream Warriors, he's dropping the one-liners like "Welcome to prime time" and all that kind of stuff. Was it on the set of the first one compared to Dream Warriors or New Nightmare? With Robert Englund, he seems like he's always like a lighthearted guy, but the tone of the film is so different. Was that kind of a transition to go from what was a darker film to Dream Warriors is a horror film, but he's dropping the lines as he's taking the kids out?
I think I just had a chance to watch Nightmare 3 all the way through without stopping last weekend, and people always say he's dropping the one-liners and he's so funny, but I actually found him so much more evil in 3 than he is in 1. In 1, he's not seen that much, and we don't really know his personality. We see that he's getting us in our, and of course he's so violent with Amanda's character, and he doesn't drop any one-liners, so we don't really know what his personality is. And then in 3, I think he's so evil. I mean, his one-liners are funny. I mean, welcome to prime time, bitch, and all of that. But I just did not laugh at all when I saw it last weekend, because I was seeing it for the first time, and it was petrifying. It was so evil, and I wasn't laughing. And so I think this idea that we're all laughing at his jokey one-liners is something that happens after you've watched it 20 times, and you're drunk, and you're like having fun with your friends. But when you're seeing it, and it is scary, and I don't think he's the jokey guy there. I mean, later on, maybe in 5 and 6, it kind of becomes more jokey. But he's super evil in 3, and I don't think we should get him off the hook by saying he's not. Just pure evil. Pure evil. Yeah. That was my
Can I say
humble
something?
opinion.
Yeah.
I think, real fast, I think that's why part 3 works so well, because it's kind of that first transition one where it is getting more sort of jokey and tongue-in-cheek, but it still has that underpinning of like real horror, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, especially with your character, I mean, it's horrifying. Because I had it with Freddy. I watched it last weekend, and I was surprised at how absolutely evil Freddy was. I mean, because I'd been kind of convinced, like, oh, he's so jokey. No, he was really scary, and he's mean, and that's what I felt like we didn't see that much in 1. How mean he is.
Then how you said you don't actually see him that much in 1. So I think like,
Well, no, you get terrified. You get really terrified when he's dragging you around. You get terrified. That's different than me.
And you're in your dream. It's like establishing the whole idea of being asleep, seeing Freddy. It was simple. It was like you go to sleep, there's Freddy. But in 3, they went one step further. It's like he's in your dreams when you're asleep, and he's going to torture you in a way that is going to really, deal with your your own psychoses that you have in your own life. And that's the second step. It's really scary, more scary.
yeah. I agree. Good
How
answer.
was it filming that scene? Pearson.
The death scene?
Yeah.
Well, the truth is, really, in that movie, the entire first 20 minutes, I'm dying, really. Like, he comes into it. It isn't just a death scene.
Yeah, it's a
like,
long dream.
It's a long dream that we kind of come in and out of. And, I mean, there's so many things about that. It's so brutal and sad, and it really sets you up to believe, like, anything could happen. And I think that, I think the brutality of it and the sadness of it, I think, is what hooks people to be emotionally involved in this film. And I think that the sadness of my character's struggle, because I'm the first person to see him and fight him, is that I had read somewhere that all great horror is intrinsically sad, and Tina's fight with him in Ultimate Death is incredibly heartbreaking in many ways, and I think that's what hooks people into the movie emotionally. And I think that then, or possibly the whole entire series, and then the fear, once you're emotionally involved with something, you're affected much deeper than if you're
I mean,
not.
and that interpretation is so much better than the one that you hear, like the easy pat. Oh, she's the one who's loose, and she's the sexy one, and she has the boyfriend. She's gonna get laid that night. Like, that is not the reason Freddy is after her.
No, it actually
Freddy is
isn't.
after her because she is the most vulnerable of the 4 of us, and she's the easiest one to pick off early. It has nothing to do with, like, any of her sexuality, of anything. It's about her being the child of this, divorced mom who's left her alone, abandoned her by herself. Her friends are there to keep her company. It's a sad situation that, we all know about. We're all part of that.
But it's also, when you say the word child and you put that musical song in the beginning, that sweet little lullaby in the beginning, it really is childhood, child, innocent, corruption, sad. Yeah. Heather's husband wrote that song?
Oh, you mean the
Yeah.
1, 2, Freddy's Coming
Yeah.
for You? Yeah, we kind of picked that out on the piano on one of the very days before we did the bathtub
I
scene.
never knew that.
Yeah, because he was a jazz pianist, and I'm like, I need a tune. I don't know. The one I would know, like from childhood, is in a major key. Really, it's not that minor, scary key, and so he just kind of changed it around a little bit for that theme in the bathtub.
And it's just so.
Yeah, they liked it. Yeah, they used it.
Question for the whole Dream Warriors group. What did you guys, when you guys first got wind of what the concept of the movie was going to be, that you guys were going to like form this team to combat Freddy? You know, what was your first thoughts about that? Because that's a concept that you know, up until that point, I mean, you guys are his most formidable foe. Like you actually, I mean, Ira, you shock him with your lightning. You get him.
Yeah, man, and I thought I was going to get him for sure. Chuck Russell told me that the editors were saying that all the fans are going to be really pissed that I got to die. But it was an incredible feeling. I mean, you know, as a character, well, I always grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons, so that was a lot of fun. Thank you, Aubrey. And when I actually got the audition to actually play it, I was just me. That was me you saw. But it was a great, incredible feeling to actually have the power to go after Freddy. You know, blowing up that wheelchair, and then just having that feeling of overcoming. Feel like I'm gonna take this motherfucker down. You know, and so it was great. And then of course he got me and killed me. That was the bummer part.
Can I say we auditioned together with the Dream Warriors?
Did you guys really?
We auditioned. Well, we did the group therapy session, right?
Oh, I remember we got together and did a group,
Yeah.
like dream therapy session.
That was at the audition?
And yeah, you know,
I
like
don't know. We had already gotten the jobs though. I think.
no.
We had a reading in Westwood.
It was like this. It was in that one building on Robertson and Beverly.
Right.
And then we all go up there and we do a group. We would go in and we sit in a circle. Yeah, we sit in a circle.
I guess you were the only one in that group that got the job.
No, you were there. We all did that.
No, but I remember we all went and did like a whole day of dream therapy. Like we got like a handout. We were supposed to go home and read and all about dreaming. And
That was in Westwood.
that was in Westwood.
So I remember for sure. We all met Chuck for lunch in Westwood, and then we went by the Avco because his buddy, his roommate at the time, had a loft over the
And that's where we
Avco,
met.
and that's where we all did our reading, the read-through, which somebody recorded, and I would love to hear that.
Oh wow, that would be cool.
And I have no lines in the movie, so I guess I was not invited to the read-through. I swear to God, this is the first time I've ever heard of this
You were there,
read-through.
Rodney.
Was I?
You might have been on one of your 90
Didn't have that much to say.
Ken, did you have fun busting through that wall?
Did I have fun?
Yeah.
Because that was when we busted.
Right.
I remember I was afraid because at that time I didn't know anything about physical acting and stuff, so I actually thought I had to really bust through it.
And in the movie, it looks like a bunch of like tissue paper.
I mean, because I didn't know anything about Nightmare on Elm Street when I got the call. I thought it was insulting because they had described the character as being, like a 29-inch waist and he was a bodybuilding. My thigh was 29 inches. So Heather and I, we was at a convention and I was telling her what happened, that I actually went in there and almost cussed them out because they said just be yourself. And I remember what you just said. So I think Chuck really hired a lot of us and that was able to let us be ourselves. So I had the attitude that day, and Ken Cade had an attitude, and I was myself, and I'm a pretty good customer, so I said a few choice words, and I think that I had. But back to your wall thing.
I'm so glad your mama wasn't there. She would have been so embarrassed.
She never saw it.
Oh, good.
But she never stopped accepting this check. She always accepted it. But the wall, you know, I remember when I went bust the wall through the first time, because he kept saying you could do it, and I did it. And I went through, and I said, oh shit. But I made a mistake by going home trying to do it. But no, it was exciting.
Yeah. And Jennifer, your scene, I mean, that just speaks just volumes. Everything from the fact that you're badass enough to try to knife fight Freddy.
I thought you were talking about the therapy session when I had all my hair going down and then my reveal to the hair going up, and the boobs going up.
That was
Going up. That was great. I think that was like a really great transition. But okay, and then I fight Freddy, and then yeah.
But
Well,
Jen, I have to ask you because I just saw this movie and I was like,
Oh, yeah.
how did you practice with your knives? You were like,
I know
you're
you're.
good.
Oh, so remember, so you know those buzzers in your palm?
Yeah.
So they took the buzzer out and put like ball bearings, like you have those spinner things now. So the knife went, magnetically to the spinner, and then you just whoop.
Oh, that's
movie magic. So you just have to
Way to destroy the myth.
Yeah, but it's cool if actors could do roll the coin, spin the knife, stuff like that, yeah.
Did you get to keep a memento from that scene? You got his syringe glove or anything?
Well, I do now. Robbie from Terricolas made me one. Yeah, we say Robbie. No. The focus during that scene was I had this condom glued to my side of my head, and then my head was going to explode from the drugs.
Oh, yeah.
And so when he sticks it in and goes, what a rush, then you see a vein go, and then hopefully my whole head, but just it's like my eyelids popped off or something like that. And then I have behind the scenes, like all of our deaths, just 5, I would be the one who has all of them. But you could just hear Chuck go, oh no, all that setup, 6 hours of prep. It didn't work. But it would have been too much. And they maybe they would have cut my part or something if it was work.
Yeah.
Because I have enough fan mail from kids who have quit using drugs because of that scene. And so it did its trick in the
They should
in the
make
record.
that a public service announcement.
I know.
Yeah, just grab the party, I'll get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Universal in LA and Orlando, they've done multiple haunted houses based on the franchise. And they've reenacted a lot of the kills from Nightmare 3. But I gotta tell you, as a patron, walking through a haunted house, the scariest kill I've had to experience firsthand is Roach Motel. And so you walked in to this room, you walk around the corner, and the thing that you immediately noticed is that the flooring was different. It was spongy. Like sponge, you saw Freddy, they had a huge LED screen and Freddy's eyes came in. And then, of course, immediately after, the actress with huge cockroach arms is all up in your face.
It was scary.
It was scary, yeah, they got us. That scene, that whole transition, because it's even more, it works the flow of you running down and your things are coming and you eventually transform. I mean, that must have been a hell of a day in itself, huh?
Yeah, well, it was like a week and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was 3 major sets. There was a set where I used the weights, and I was in the box, and my arms crack, and then I sit up, and my arms fell off, and then I have this coming out, and then I'm running down the hallway that is actually starts small and goes large, so it makes me look like I'm getting smaller. And then, so I did that one, and then we go to the actual Roach Motel, and that was like a, I don't know, 18-hour day, I think, shooting in that. And I'm actually in the cockroach costume. I don't know, a lot of people don't know that, but you can see my legs sticking out, and I'm working the movement of sitting up and stuff, and then I have the, cables going down, working the antennas and stuff. So,
How
yeah.
did you get the part? How did you get the part? Sorry.
Just
How did you get the part?
just a normal audition. Just got lucky that it was fun death.
I always,
Who knew, right?
I always think about that scene anytime I'm on a weight bench. Elbows, oh my God, every time.
You see, Rodney, you can't actually really break your arms that way.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work. In the movies, it does.
Well, you, Heather, after Dream Warriors, you come back, of course, for New Nightmare. I mean, that movie, it was like the horror version of Last Action Hero, where he's coming through Wes's mind and he's torturing you guys for real. What was that experience like? And did you get to keep the telephone?
I don't have any telephones. I wish I did, and people bring them to me all the time, and I could just probably go home and make one. I mean, they're not hard to make. You just need that old style telephone, and they don't make those anymore. So, the seventh one, I was really excited that Wes decided to come up with a new idea, and his producer Marianne told me that he labored over figuring out a story to bring to screen for years, that would bring his story to a culmination. And he said, my friend Marianne said he called her one night and said, I think I've got it. I think I figured out what I want to do. And so he wrote the script and submitted it to me, and I looked at it and I said, no way, this is never going to be good. It's going to be terrible. I can't play myself. No one's going to buy this. And so I really didn't want to do it in my heart. But talking to Wes more and more, because he was going to direct it, I said, okay, I think you just have to be careful because I'm playing myself, Heather Langenkamp, and I don't want to be like so weird and strange. Because she was kind of strange character. She was humorless, first of all. Like, I never smile in the entire show. And, my relationship with my husband and just go tragic. And I just wanted Wes to be very careful. And it turned out that, it was an intense shoot. We did have the real earthquake in Los Angeles on about the second week of shooting. And it made everybody really kind of depressed for, I'd say, a couple of weeks. A lot of people lost their apartments or had things that were destroyed, and no one was hurt or their families were hurt, which was good. But after an earthquake in LA, well, here too probably, you are in this state of agitation, like you think another one's going to happen at any moment. So everyone was on edge to a degree that I've never experienced, and Wes was trying to keep everybody jolly and laughing, but I think you see that tension on screen. It was very palpable, and working with everybody as their real selves was just really cool. And being with Bob Shea at his real office at New Line Cinema, and then acting with Wes Craven. That wasn't his real house, but it was every day was a big challenge because it's hard to be yourself. It's hard to be natural. It's hard to bring a character and then try to do both at the same time.
Before we open it up to Q&A, we want to spend a lot of time doing Q&A because you guys are all here to talk to them, but I just wanted to ask, does anyone have anything like new in the works or doing some fun stuff going on?
Well, I just did a part in a movie called Truth or Dare. I think it's going to be on Sci-Fi or FX. I can't remember. I get those two confused. But I actually wear a burn makeup. So I'm sitting there in this burn makeup thinking about Robert Englund every single minute that I'm on the set, realizing it is really hard to act in a burn makeup. And I feel so hideous in it that I can't wait to see what my fans think of it. But it's a horror movie and it's very, very scary. It's based on the game Truth or Dare. So, yeah.
I don't have anything.
I have a horror film streaming on Amazon right now called The Id. And I have a movie coming out on the Sci-Fi Channel too, a horror film called Madison. And I have a movie coming out in September called The Hatred, that's also a horror film. And also in September, a movie coming out called The Watcher of Park Avenue. That's a thriller. And there's a couple more, but those are the ones coming out right now. But watch The Id. I'm super proud of it. And Tommy Hudson directed it, who produced the Never Sleep Again documentary. And Tuesday Night has a song in it. And it's really good.
Really good.
And I would really like people to see it. And it's streaming on Amazon.
The id.
The Id.
ID.
Thanks for spelling it. 'Cause I was like, how do you spell it? It's A-U-L-D. Exactly. I wrote The Folklore of Marijuana as a screenplay.
So good.
It's so good. And Amanda's going to be in it in a nightgown.
Yes.
Is that okay? Good idea. In a nightgown. But it's just because she's stoned. That has nothing to do with it. We'll work out it. I'll get a real costume person, but I just think it's funny because that's the nature of the movie, but it's very serious. And it will shoot in November when you really harvest marijuana. So it'll be hopefully like really big, like great-great-grandfather plants, not like little 7-Eleven plants. And, no, but you know what I mean, like, you know how they are. It's little ones, yeah, orange pots. Yeah. And then hopefully everybody, I would love everybody from Nightmare series to be in it. I would like that because it's a community. And it's about, sometimes, if you have a movie called Tammy, and I mean nothing against Tammy, I love that movie Tammy, but it's just like Tammy goes here and then Tammy goes there, and those people she talks to is not really, but like, to do a movie that has community, where everybody matters in the community and is harvesting marijuana, so we all can package wrap or pick or flip, and they wouldn't mind if everybody would have got on board. But when I secure the financing and we get to November, I have the location and I can house crew and actors, then I will come when I have money. I will come when I have money. I will say, please.
Why are you turning to me?
Because you're expensive. You're expensive. So anyway, but it's just great to go from an actress to a writer. I just feel that as a personal thing. From like, say you smoke a lot, and then you learn to write. This is a personal accomplishment. So, and it was mark of maturity on my part. So there, I'll pass it.
You really did this research on that marijuana. Well, I did a movie last year called Gorinos, and then I recently finished a film called Nation Fire, where I'm playing a villain.
Wow.
I never played a villain before.
Believe that.
Yeah.
You're too sweet.
Yeah, I'm playing a
Sweet Bill.
I'm actually playing a child molester.
No!
I'm villain, and they kill my ass.
Spoiler alert.
So, and also, I still have my nonprofit where I pay for kids' books when they go to college, and I send kids to camp every year. And as of this past May, 2 things happened. I passed the mark of sending over 300 kids to college. My oldest son, May the 7th this past year, received his PhD in education.
I will be assisting Jennifer in research. Also, also working with my representation to make sure that I never follow Ken again at a panel because he's already stolen 3 of my jokes. But I'm actually just finished up co-writing a movie, and I'm producing a film called Burn the Shepherd. We start shooting next weekend. Really excited about that, and yeah, like Jennifer was saying, it's just amazing to. I've been really blessed and really fortunate, starting with this movie, and I've been a a working actor for the past 30 years, and it's just really nice to I was given the best education, and to be on the other side of it is pretty exciting. To go from being one color in the painting to being somebody who's trying to paint the whole thing is pretty exciting. Burden of the Shepherd, look out for it next year.
Proud to be your friend for 30 years. 30 years, can you believe that? It's been 30 years since it came out. Nightmare 3, crazy. Okay, now let's talk about me. I do voiceover work on a TV show called Code Black, and their 3rd season is coming out this year, so watch it on CBS, Channel 2. And I'm also producing a movie, a passion project that I've been working on for a short time, 17 years. It's a movie about my friend Brandon Lee. I'm sure you guys know Brandon. And his best friend Bill Allen wrote the script, and another one of Brandon's friends, Lou Diamond Phillip, is our director. And we just have on board Robbie Krieger from The Doors, who wrote our song. So we're really close to getting this whole project put together, and so look out for that soon. I'm a producer on it.
Hey, let's open it up for some Q&A.
So, Rodney, I need to know what it felt like.
I knew
to be
you were
water.
going to talk to Rodney right away. Go ahead.
No, thank you. I need to know how you did that waterbed scene.
Me too, Rodney.
Fully clothed.
But I mean, seriously, that was legit. That was pretty.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I like the actual technical specifics. So it was a room that was built up about 4 feet off the ground, and there was this giant 6-foot deep water tank that was built underneath the bedroom. So I want to do a diagram. So like half of the waterbed, half of this tank was the waterbed, separated by a wall. So you had to climb up this ladder, dive in the water, swim under the wall, and go back up with the plastic over the top. So once you were in there waiting for cameras to roll, you just had to tread water and just push up so that there was an air hole that you could breathe under. There was no tanks or anything. I told you the level of making horror movies back then. It was the Wild West, and that's why all these young kids are in horror movies, because they're like, yeah, we could throw them around, they're fine, they'll do it. And so it's true. And even Robert was in there. That wasn't even a stuntman. That was really Robert, down in there with me. And so in the end, when you see me in the bed, that was before we did the whole scene where he rips it apart and everything. And so that was the first shot we did. I just had to swim under and just try and float to the top and look dead, And it was really hard because it was, I don't know how regulated the set was. So that tank was held together with epoxy and all sorts of random chemicals. So if you opened your eyes in the water, it was like someone was pouring salt in your eyes. Really brutal,
Oh, that's crazy.
But,
Well, I got rid of my waterbed.
Oh, you did? Yeah, you and just about everyone else in the world. I mean, can you find a waterbed now anymore?
I don't know.
Does anyone know anyone with a water gun?
No.
I rest my case.
Good job.
Thank you. And also a little trivia, I just gotta say, I think it's really interesting. I think in horror movies in general, there's always a naked girl running around. In all 7 Nightmare on Elm Street movies, there's only frontal nudity in 2 movies, 3 and 4. And I get to be in both of them.
Got the little guy right there. Yeah. Yeah.
This is an embarrassing question. I don't know how to say about being embarrassed. It's for Rodney. It's about in part 3. In the movie, I just heard this. I want to know if it's true. When you walked away from the group in part 3 to go with that nurse, and it turned out it was Freddy. During the transformation, instead of cutting over, and then it turns back as Freddy. Oh god.
It's okay.
It said that it would. Freddy still had bosoms that were burnt. I want to know if that's true.
That is true. That is true. In the original way we shot that sequence, there was a shot of the nurse, and then they had a transitional thing where they put the woman naked with Freddy's head on it. So it was Freddy's face with that body, which was so cool looking, and I have a picture of it somewhere. And then they cut back and it was completely Freddy, and they took it out because it looked just funny to them on screen. But yeah, it was such a weird, cool image. I wish they would have kept that in, but that is true.
You can see that on the Never Sleep Again.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Never Sleep Again. See it there.
That right here.
Oh.
First off, my condolences that Larry Fishburne couldn't be here today.
I know.
But did you guys realize that the franchise had become a major phenomenon when you turned on MTV and saw Freddy in a Dawkins video?
No, clueless. Even then. I don't think anybody sitting up here ever. I mean, how could you know that something is going to become as iconic as this became?
It
I had no
really
idea.
gained momentum after, of course, Robert always says it, after VHS and DVDs became like part of our household lives, and people were watching them 30, 40 times. That's when I think you could notice that, like, some people had seen it, and then once DVDs and VHS came out, suddenly like 100 times more people had seen it, and that happened. I think it happened like in the mid '90s. I mean, late '90s when people just went nuts. See,
You and I both, we've talked about this, like, it was much after the DVD and VHS was Halloween when people came to the door
in
dressed like
costumes.
Freddy. And I was at my mom's house handing out coffee.
Go to the Wyss's house.
Guess what Auntie Amanda needs right now? Like, or maybe some wine. Kids came to, it was like a year or so after the movie had come out, or
Much
maybe
later,
later.
After Nightmare 3.
Yeah, because I was at my mom's, and like my baby nieces and nephews they were trick-or-treating, and a couple of Freddys came to the door, and I was like, what? And I said to them, I was like, I'm in that movie, I played Tina. And they're like, nah. Like, whatever.
Here's your candy. Get
out.
This is for all of you. The Dream Warrior song, written by an awesome band, Doc. How often do you guys listen to that song, and have you ever gone to a live performance and seen them do that song?
I just saw Don Dawkins sing Dream Warriors with a guitar and just his voice, because he played it last weekend, and it was beautiful and unlike the version you've heard on the record. But just, he was awesome, and I realized I could hear the lyrics like for the first time. I understood them, and I was so lucky to hear that.
I got to see them play at the Whiskey A Go Go.
That was like a few weeks ago.
In May.
Yeah,
in May.
in May.
It was awesome. And I swear it's because of me that Dokken is on that soundtrack. I swear.
Why?
Well, I came out here from Florida and listened to Dokken nonstop. And we're working, and Nicky Marvin comes up to us and says, "Oh, we're thinking of bringing Dokken in or Mesmerillion." And Rodney, I clearly remember going, "Say, he wants Mesmerillion." And I said, "No, just Marillion, sorry." Jesus. So I forced Dokken down Nicky Marvin's throat. I said, "You gotta put Dokken on," because it just meant so much. It was like pure rock and roll. It just fit, right?
Yeah. You still have a Dokken shirt, Jennifer?
I do. I mean, I have their album, their CD. My table got full of stuff, but I wanted to put my Dokken pin out and my Dokken CD. And but I didn't go. Ira invited me to go over there, but I'm moody, so I didn't go out.
We know what Jennifer was doing.
She was doing research.
Guys, we are actually out of time, but if you would like to talk to all of these guys, they will be here at their tables for the remainder of today. I know Ken has got to go, so he's not going to be here tomorrow. So if you want to talk to Ken, you got to do it right now. The rest of them will be back
I have a question for
tomorrow.
Jen. How did you do that car scene in the beginning? Of what, four? The car scene, the junkyard.
You would bring up the death scene.
No, I want to know how they did the cars.
Before you talk about it, remind everybody that you were, what did you say at the last con? About how you survived number 3 and how proud you were about surviving number 3?
Oh, because, I'm the first black to ever survive a major horror movie. It wasn't that I survived, they just forgot to kill my ass. But it was very simple. They shot, it was a camera they had at the top and they shot down when I was saying Freddy's back. And then I think it was a blue screen, and they put it inside there. It was some type of special effects. You would know how to do it.
I don't know.
But that was, I don't know the technical, I don't know the sci-fi stuff about it. That's what all I did was say Freddy's back.
So there wasn't any cars?
Guys, give it up one more time.
Thank you so much.
See us on our tables.
Come on upstairs.